Yo, what is going on YouTube? GZTV back with yet another video. We are here with You Season 5 Episode 2. I don't remember the episode title. I will pop it up when I go to edit the video. But we have a very interesting one here. I know the setup looks kind of bleh. You know, I had to get rid of some stuff, take it home. But we're here, man. Joe's life gets chaotic. He's got to navigate new characters, new challenges as always. Kate discovers Joe's dark past, causing tension in their marriage. And episode 2 ends with the twist as Joe locks the wrong twin in a cage. This is a full-on spoiler review. We're going to talk about absolutely everything that happened in episode 2. This is more of a recap than it is a review. Let's get into it. Netflix's You Season 5 Episode 2 continues the wild ride of Joe Goldberg's marriage to Kate Lockwood, you know, Penn Badgley and Charlotte Ritchie. I didn't really introduce the actors and actresses in the previous episode except for, you know, Anna Camp and all those people, while leaning on its interesting new characters and memorable New York City setting that made the show so famous years ago. When You premiered back in like 2018, viewers were introduced to Joe, a seemingly nice and smart bookworm character who fell in love with Guinevere Beck, who is Elizabeth Lale, of course. As Joe and Beck's relationship progresses, the truth about Joe comes out, and he's a terrifying serial killer. Just kind of giving you guys more of a rundown if you want some catching up. Since viewers learn Joe's backstory and see inside his mind, he stands out even among the most original horror movie villains. So that's pretty cool, you know, he's a modern day horror movie villain. You can kind of see that. In You Season 5 Episode 2, Joe's life becomes more chaotic and complicated, and fans will enjoy seeing the season's new characters while diving deeper into what's going on with Joe. So basically what happened in the episode, I'm just going to kind of summarize it. You know, at the beginning of You Season 5 Episode 2, it's called Blood Will Be Blood. I'm sure I'll put that at the beginning of the video. Joe celebrates his resurrection as he cleans Mooney's bookstore. You know, he's bringing it back. He's opening the business again. He decided, you know, his life needs some purpose. He's into books. He needs to bring back the business. Then back at home, Kate tells Joe to burn his stories about murder, proving that he has to keep this part of his life secret from her. He can't be this murderous guy. You know, Love Quinn, he was able to do that. He can't do that around a more tame wife in Kate Lockwood. While Kate could be influenced by Joe, at this point she doesn't like what he's doing. Back at Mooney's, Joe is becoming more interested in Bronte, who he calls captivating, and who has been sleeping there because she can't afford an apartment. You Season 5 seems to be setting up Bronte as Joe's other love interest, obviously, and it will be interesting to see what happens there, of course. And there's obviously two main storylines in this episode. The first is Joe and Kate learning that Henry's been suspended for hitting Reagan's daughter, which creates more problems between them and Reagan. That there's already problems that kind of exist. Obviously, the whole Bob situation dying suspiciously, and Reagan has the obviously justifiable suspicions that Joe and Kate might have had something to do with it. The second is Joe figuring out how to feel about Bronte, of course, you know, just kind of discovering her character. It was a really good episode. Kate throws a chaotic dinner party where Reagan, who has also invited Maddie, requests an apology from Kate and Joe. So out of the blue, it seems like motherfuckers are teaming up, and it's a full-on war. And I think this episode, more than most episodes of You, just the verbal warfare and the intensity in the dialogue was really good. I really enjoyed it here. At the same time, Bronte sneaks into Mooney's basement and finds the cage. Joe creates a cage no matter where he is, including in the basement of the bakery, a fresh tart, and the excellent You Season 3, but the Mooney's cage is the original one. Bronte gets locked in Joe's cage, and viewers can't help but wonder if she will end up there again later in this season. Is he going to end up killing her? You know, that's kind of the roller coaster ride. That's kind of like the mystery of You of it all, you know, just watching through these seasons. And yeah, man, this is where it all started. This is like a homecoming. That's what this season kind of is, and I love it so far. The You Season 5 teaser showed Joe in the cage too, but it's early in the season and unclear how he gets there. I don't know why they would fucking spoil that, but it's fine, you know. After Reagan says she knows Kate killed Bob, Henry throws a knife at Reagan, which worries Kate and Joe. I mean, at first they're like, yeah, this was very justifiable. You talk shit about his mother. And then it was kind of like salt in the wound, you know, throughout the dinner. Reagan revealed that she wasn't even talking about Love Quinn. She had justifiable stuff. And then boom, Henry just makes it fucking worse. It makes it worse. Neither one wants Henry to have Joe's violent instincts. Joe doesn't either. I mean, the main problem in Joe and Kate's relationship comes to forefront when Kate asks, "You want us to kill everyone who is suspicious of us for the rest of our lives? When does it end?" And this is kind of, again, where you're going to have those problems where it's like, you need to probably kill people to get them out of your life and to get the suspicion and all that stuff out, but she's got a good point there. Joe now has two problems to solve. He gets an alert on his phone and finds Bronte in his cage. Now he needs to kind of alleviate her suspicions of him being a fucking weirdo. She says she wanted to sell one of the rare books to pay off debt and produce her play, and he fires her consequently. Obviously, you can't do that in a business. The storyline gets revolved compellingly when Joe realizes that Bronte understands him more than Kate does even. So this is again setting up as Bronte being kind of his love interest. He rehires Bronte and tells her to stay in the apartment above Mooney's. Then Joe goes to Kate's office and sees Reagan and her husband Harrison, who is played by Pete Plazik, and Joe locks Reagan in his cage, or so he thinks. While some horror villains are kept hidden for the entire movie, Joe's schemes and plans are always shown to viewers, and it's always terrifying. Joe says, "It's been a while since you put a monster in a cage." Again, just more returns to form. That's what this season really represents. Kind of how does it end? We're just kind of wrapping things up. Season 5, episode 2 ends with Joe realizing he needs to keep his dark inner nature from Kate. She can't know about this because she is going very much against him through the process of doing so. She tells him that while he was right that Reagan is creating problems for them, killing Bob, who was played by Michael Dempsey, was a moment of weakness, and they can't do that again. That just shows that, again, they have a weakness. They can't do that. She's in a very high power position as a CEO of this corporation, and if they keep doing shit like that, it's going to be very costly. It's obviously clear that Kate is scared of Joe and that she isn't sure who she married. Who ever knows who Joe truly is? I mean, the people even watching the show never really know who he is. He's such an unorthodox left field character, and that's why we love him. That's why he's been so iconic throughout this series. Joe thinks that he will kill Reagan and hide it from Kate, so that's kind of what's going to be developing. How is he going to do that? This is a memorable and significant scene since it's clear that Joe and Kate's marriage is in trouble. Like, there's genuinely a rift in the marriage for the first time, like, in the relationship shown on screen anyway. Fans were curious about Joe and Kate's Season 5 dynamic ever since they moved to New York City in the Season 4 finale, and it's clear that things are getting messier between them, so it's going to be interesting to see how the two characters kind of navigate between that. Fans can guess that Joe will keep killing, and Kate will find out at some point this season and be shocked and terrified. How will she react to that? Again, that's what this show is building up to, and that's going to be awesome. The episode also concludes with the kind of big twist that fans of you expect from the show. It is kind of characteristic of the show. It happens all the time. They always have stuff like this going on. Joe figures out that Maddie, not Reagan, is in the cage, and he says, "You caged the wrong twin." So clearly, or either Harrison is genuinely cheating on Reagan, or Reagan is trying to trick Joe because they never actually had sex in front of Joe. So there's no proof that they actually had sex and that she's cheating. I interpreted it as Reagan possibly playing mind games on Joe because she knows that he's coming for her head and she's ready to play the mind games. It's very interesting. It's kind of up for interpretation. I'm sure we'll find out next episode. So, the whole thing we're kind of cliffhanging on is, do you think Maddie will get out of Joe's cage in Season 5? Let me know down in the comments below. Almost no character has escaped Joe Goldberg's cage. I'm not sure if Maddie will survive. She seems like kind of a fucking idiot. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm not going to lie, from here on out, I do think I'm going to go for kind of a shorter format of videos just so I can kind of pump these out. I know I want to put effort in the videos, trust me, but I'm just going to kind of get into my general thoughts here, sorry. So just kind of getting into my thoughts of the episode, I really liked the verbal warfare. I think that was my favorite part of them just going back and forth. That whole dinner scene, one of the most intense scenes of the entire show, honestly, that didn't involve killing anyway, and it was great. And I do like the storyline of Henry starting to kind of inherit the violent natures, of Joe Goldberg, and we see that similar, well, we don't see it with Harrison with Dexter, but Dexter from that show, his own show, he kind of gets those thoughts about his son too, so I think it's kind of cool to see those two parallel out. And also just the twist at the end, obviously it's expected, obviously it's very cliche, having twins on your show, yeah, you're gonna go for that every now and then, but it was cool, and it was a really dope twist, and I think I actually saw some spoilers about it online going into the show, and I still was shocked. So just the way the show kind of presented that, and just the way they went about, implementing the twist in this episode is great. There's just so much anticipation for this season. I think this season could be really good, and I don't think there really is a bad season to this show, but there's definitely been some weaker points, and I don't know if this is going to be one of them, especially because we're back in New York City and you have the whole Mooney storyline. Again, it just feels like one giant homecoming, and I am all here for it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I do like Bronte as a character as well. She's one of the more conscious, one of the more intelligent women that we've seen Joe kind of probably eventually get romantically involved with. It's going to be cool to see how that kind of affects him and Kate's relationship once again. So leave a like, comment, and subscribe. As always, it has been your boy GZTV. That is going to do it. Again, these videos are going to be slightly shorter than the other ones. I decided to kind of go with a different sort of format here. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I don't want to stick around too long and make 15-minute recap videos. I think that's kind of pointless. I don't think anyone really does that on this platform. I'm not going to be the one to do it either, so I'm out.